Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I'm your host Frank Pereira. Today we have a truly special guest with us. We have a recipient of the Padma Shri, the Padma Vibhushan, and more recently the Bharat Ratna. His contributions to the world of science are so immense that he is known as Dr. Science himself. Please welcome or join me in welcoming Professor CNR Rao. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure having you here on the program. I'd like to ask you, Professor, first and foremost, of course, there are so many things to talk to you about, but I'd like to start from the beginning and ask you, how was it living in Bangalore in those days and, going forward from there?
Well, the entire country, if you remember, was just coming out of this colonial period when at that time, when I finished school, when I was doing school, of course, conditions were very bad. We had ration, we were a poor country, there was a Second World War going on. It was not a very enjoyable situation. But even after the freedom that we obtained on 15th August, conditions were no better. We didn't have money. But I entered college just when India got freedom. I'll never forget the grand celebration of August 15th, 1947, going around the roads in Bangalore with the bells and gongs, and I was very young. I was exactly 13 years old when India got freedom and entered college. I did finish my school at a very young age.
Yes.
I got my degree at the age of 17, the first degree. So it was nice. But what I must say is, my parents gave an extraordinary freedom and as well as importance to me. So my father used to consult me even as a young child, what do you think we should do? And he was always, he went by my advice on many things, though I was very young. So he always allowed me to do whatever I wanted. He never said, you must do this, study that. No, you want to study science? Go ahead, do that. Wonderful. Like that. So he was wonderful. So my mother was an excellent teacher. And so I had no problem with education.
You were tutored at home till the age of 6. You joined middle school directly at the age of 6.
That's right.
You completed your 10th standard at the age of 13. You completed
correct.
You completed your graduation at the age of 17.
That's right.
And you completed your post-graduation at the age of 19.
That's
Today,
right.
we've seen several people completing their post-graduation at the age of 25, 27.
No. What has happened is the school system is such, most people finish their class 12, they're almost 18. Or 17 or 18, very, very late. Yeah.
Talking about the school system, sir, are you happy with the kind of education that we impart on the children these days? Do you think it should change?
Well, we had very few schools when I was young. For example, Bangalore had 3 or 4 government schools and 3 or 4 private schools, very small. Today we have hundreds of schools. But majority of the schools do not provide the kind of education that is required today. Even those which are expensive schools, the kind of science they teach is a bit outdated. It doesn't take people to the very the exciting part of the subject. It is very boring, it is repetition, the same thing, and it is not something that people can enjoy. That we have to make education an enjoyable experience rather than something they write and mug up to pass an exam.
It's very important, sir, what you're saying right now, because if my education was interesting, or if they would have made it interesting for me probably in school, I would have been a scientist and not a journalist today. But what do you think should be done differently, sir?
Well, you see, what is amazing is, before freedom, when I was in school, we had some fantastic teachers in Bangalore. They were not very highly paid, we were all paid 50 rupees or something, salary. They were fantastic teachers. I still remember my school teachers with great respect and affection. But it was one or two of those teachers who kind of sowed the seeds of my interest in science. Though, of course, I saw C.V. Raman in Bangalore, that made a big difference. So many things like that. But the real problem is, stuffing people with all kinds of information is not the purpose of education. Making them pass exams is not the purpose of education. Enlighten the students, to expose them to the world, expose them to the great things that are happening in the world at large and the universe. I think that is the purpose of education. And then the children can pick up what they want as a profession. That is different. But that doesn't happen. What happens is, they may even know a little mathematics, little science, but they're not so interested or excited about what they have learned.
They don't seem to be interested at all. But
science is so interesting.
It is.
When I teach a classroom, even today to children, I make them jump with it.
But there is only one, unfortunately, there's only one Professor CNR Rao in this world. So we need many more like you so that we have some kind of development in the field of basic sciences. The problem really is, sir, we've seen a lot of students, going into fields such as engineering and, then pursuing a career in IT. But when it comes to research, there are hardly any research fellows. Why is that so? What is the problem
The
really?
real problem is there is a peculiar societal pressure that built up. For some reason, they think going for engineering will give them a job, they can go to IT, this, that, and so on. So the society pushes children to go to IT. Parents push children to go to engineering and this kind of thing. So the large number of them are unemployable because they go to some second-rate colleges instead of going to something that they enjoy. They could study economics, philosophy, poetry, or anything else and do well in that. Instead of that, they go to engineering, which they don't enjoy because they go to awful colleges. Imagine Bangalore alone has 67 engineering colleges in this one city. So imagine what kind of education can you get in all of them. I mean, it can't be very good.
So when you were studying your post-graduation, you had a difficult choice to make between IISc and Banaras Hindu University. What prompted you to go to Banaras?
I tell you, the Indian Institute of Science and also in Bombay University those days, you just had to do research to get a master's degree. Well, I thought, I also should study, take courses. So I must do something which will be a combination of studying, taking courses and exams, and also doing research. Banaras used to offer that. So partly by thesis, partly by coursework. So I went there. And also Banaras University those days was truly a national university. Madan Mohan Malviya had built a university which was not only a national university, which is certainly the best university in India at that time.
And subsequently, sir, you got many offers from, several foreign universities, funding your higher studies and asking you to come and do your PhD there.
I did.
What prompted you to choose Purdue University in Indiana?
I tell you what I want to do is when I was doing MSc, I studied a very famous book of Linus Pauling called The Nature of the Chemical Bond, where we understand chemistry through structure of molecules, atoms, the electronic structure. So I thought I must do that kind of research. There was no way of doing that in India at that time. So I wrote to Pauling, and in fact he advised, maybe you should go to one or two universities where some of my students are still doing that. One of them was in Purdue University. That is how I went there. In fact, I had an assistantship in MIT, Columbia. Somehow I went to Purdue. But that was not a mistake. I tell you, Purdue University gave me enormous opportunity to blossom out. I not only did work in my field, electron diffraction, but in spectroscopy, a number of areas. I used to talk to all kinds of professors who had nothing to do with me directly as guides. But I would talk with them and come with an idea and publish papers with them. So I published with so many professors in addition to my PhD professor. So by the time I finished my PhD, I think I had ended up with about 20 research publications. Normally one gets 4 or 5. So it was unbelievable. That was an exciting period that I had at Purdue.
No, interesting that you spoke about that, sir. I remember one of the scientists that I met over the last couple of days telling me about how you wrote textbooks on solid state chemistry earlier in your days before you started these research papers. How important do you think?
No, it is not like that. When I first finished my studies, everything, and came back to India, I was a staff member in the Indian Institute of Science. I used to do a lot of spectroscopy. I thought there was no book actually using modern quantum mechanical notations, a book on spectroscopy, particularly ultraviolet and visible spectroscopy. I thought I should write it. People made fun of me. Oh, this kid already thinking of writing a book. I was 25 years old. So, my God, a year later the book came out from London, and that book has got translated in 6 languages. It has come in 3-4 editions too. So, that was a book I wrote when I was 25. So, that was the first book. And then 3 years later, I wrote a second book on infrared spectroscopy. It was a 700-page book. That book did a very major thing for me. C.V. Raman read it and said, my God, he wrote to me, dear Mr. Dr. Rao, anyone who can write this book should be a member of the Academy of Science in India. So I was 29 years old. So he saw to it. I got elected as a member of the Academy at a very young age because he was very impressed with the book I wrote on spectroscopy. So anyway, one thing led to another. But I have never had a dull moment. People may say this or that. Well, you forget about it. There are always people who don't see beauty in things. They're always looking for something to criticize. We shouldn't worry about that. I think we should keep our mind at the objective that we have. My objective in life has been do as much science as possible, publish as much as possible, and through that, my work will be known. My own country, India's work will be known. I have done all my work from this country, and I'm very proud of that.
Indeed, it is extremely proud that Professor Rao has done all his work from here. And Professor, I want to ask you something. What was really the turning point? I read in your book, the turning point you had written in your book was the first book that you read of Professor Linus Pauling in Banaras. That was really the turning point.
That decided, turning point in the sense, that decided that I was going to be a chemist doing a particular kind of research. It is all based on atoms, molecules, and so on. And that is the kind of turning point. In terms of real turning point, in terms of decision to be in science throughout my life, whatever comes, never to quit science, happened much later. See, one day when I was just walking
so
around...
it happened much later. It was not
even later, when I was working as a young... I went to IIT Kanpur as a professor at a young age.
Yes.
And I was about 30 years old. I was just walking in the corridor with friends of mine. I just got a letter. Those days, everything came by post, if you remember, saying that from the Faraday Society in England, "Dear Dr. Rao, we have decided to award you the Marlowe Medal of the Faraday Society." I was 33 years old. This is given to the best physical chemist under the age of 35 in the world. I said, my God, here I am in India, UP, if you know UP and Kanpur, they're not in the center of the universe. My God, how did I get that? So that was a very important thing for me. That meant, you see, the world is still looking at me and seeing that my work isn't so bad. I'm doing the right thing. So I decided I must go on doing that. Tremendous encouragement it gave me. And much later, I got a Bhatnagar Prize, this and so on. Oxford University in 1973 invited me as a visiting professor. When I worked there with a lot of professors who are all my great friends today, then I realized what I should do is build a center in India as good as the best in the world. Unless I do that, there is no way of doing competitive research. That is one thing I have tried to do in Indian Social Science and now at the Nehru Center, build centers with extraordinary capabilities, infrastructure, so we do research as good as the best. There's no point doing second-rate research. So I've done my best in doing that.
On that note, we'll slip into a short break now. But on the other side, we'll continue talking to Professor about his awards and also his recognitions that he has received from India and abroad. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television in conversation with Dr. Science himself, Professor CNR Rao. Professor Rao, we were speaking about this particular institute, the JNC ASR. This is an institute that you're a parent of. You're the father of this institution. Tell us something.
I'm the founder.
Yes.
Well, you see, I was the director of the Indian Institute of Science in 1984 onwards. And one day I got a letter saying that the committee to celebrate the centenary of Pandit Nehru has decided that there should be an institutional center devoted to science in his name to celebrate the centenary. And this was based on proposals made by the Science Advisory Council to the Prime Minister at that time, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, of which I was chairman myself. So can you expand on this idea and let us know what it should be? Then I wrote a possible description of a small institute which would not be another university, but will only do outstanding research in a few select areas of science. We'll have international linkages, we'll do a lot of things on education for children, something of that kind. So I wrote that, and the result of that was we got a letter that this is one of the approved projects of the Nehru centenary, and this started. And it's been the greatest thing in my life. It has been a wonderful campus, the beautiful campus. More than that, I enjoy working here. There's a small place. There are only close to 300 students here, PhD students, and professors, and it's a very wonderful place to work.
Talking about PhDs, sir, I'm sure there are several PhDs that have gone under you.
Yeah.
What kind of an impact have you had on their lives?
I have had a large number of wonderful students. I tell you, even not very good students, poor students, did hard work when I was there. They were with me. All the students have given their best in my laboratory. But some of them have become famous. Many of them have become professors and distinguished people all over the world. Some are professors in California, London, and many are professors in India. And it's been a wonderful career, training a large number of students. I think more than 150 or 160 people must have got PhDs with me. Another couple of hundred people have worked with me in other capacities. It has been very nice. That is one reward. And the thing is, this way of life is wonderful, you see. You're always with the young people, thinking of new things, discovering new things, trying to find the secret of something. I mean, you are never at a loss for doing something interesting. You're not looking for something where, what should I do? I have a lot of spare time. I have nothing to do. I've never had a time of that kind. I have always lots of writing to do because I write a lot of papers, I write books. It's like a race all the time.
Indeed, it is a race all the time.
I enjoy that.
Yes, it's
if I'm not challenged and if I'm not very busy, I get very bored. In fact, I want to be very busy. In fact, I should be expected to do much more than I can do. Then I'm at happiest. All the time meeting deadlines and
devil's mind is an idle mind is a devil's workshop is something
that's
that
true.
you.
But that's true. And also, this gives you a sense and purpose of life. How do you want to live? You have to live in a life where your entire life is meant for some purpose. In fact, the other day I heard from somewhere, somebody gave me this beautiful thing, write up about Bismillah Khan, the famous. I listen to a lot of music. I'm a great music fan.
Yes,
and Bismillah Khan was asked, he used to play Shehnai on the banks of Ganges. He was asked, what is it that you will pray for? What is it you want? He said, I pray to God, oh God, as long as I'm alive, please keep me in the world of music. And this is him, I have no difference from him. Oh God, keep me in this world of science as long as I'm alive.
And we would want you to be in this world of science because of your contributions.
I've done research for 63 years,
yes.
Of which 55 years I've been a professor. And I am not tired. And people say, 80, how come you are doing that? I'm not tired, so I'm not retired. As Vajpayee ji once said, somebody asked him about retirement. He said, how can I retire when I'm not even tired? He said, so exactly. So I think it's all in the mind. You see, again, Kabir Das, you remember, he said, Maname Ganga, Maname Kashi, Maname Snan Karo. Same thing. Your everything is the mind, your age, your energy, that comes from the mind. Physically, of course, it's very important, but you feel you're always tired, you will be tired.
Yes.
If you feel you're energetic, you want to do something, you will have the energy.
So talking about your awards, you've been a recipient of the Padma Shri, the Padma Vibhushan and Bharat Ratna here in India, apart from several other awards, of course, the latest one being the Bharat Ratna. What was the feeling, sir, when the Bharat Ratna was awarded?
It's like my country telling me that they have valued me, and it is wonderful. See, scientifically, I've got very major awards. I'm probably, one of my friends recently wrote to me, you are probably the only scientist in the world who is a member of all the major academies of the world. He wrote to me. And he joked with me, well, maybe I could exchange my things with you, but he has a Nobel Prize. I said, I don't think he would exchange. But I don't have a Nobel Prize. But I did get prizes equivalent to Nobel Prize, like the Dan David Prize, which is a $1 million prize. That way, just now, the Germans gave their highest medal in chemistry, the von Hoffman medal. All that I've got. But the more thing is, my country telling me, look here, we value you. That's what happened when they gave me the first India Science Award and also now Bharat Ratna. I think I'm very grateful. I'm humbled. Not only that, it gives me satisfaction of having worked here.
Sir, the Nobel Prize has eluded you, as you have just now
I don't
said.
know. I don't know.
But is that something that you'd want in your kitty, something in your show cabinet?
I don't. There is one thing. I've never been waiting for awards and medals. Even for like when Bharat Ratna came, I was in the airport with my wife coming from Trivandrum to Bangalore after giving lectures to children. I give children's program all over India. And then this air hostess came, there is an urgent phone call to you. Then there was Prime Minister on the phone telling me that you have been, I had no expectation that I would get this award or that award. That is all incidental and I'm very grateful. I don't do science to get awards. I do it because I really enjoy it.
Because you're passionate about it.
Yeah, my heroes are people like Michael Faraday. People who really did science till the last day of their life. My God, look at their lives. What great heroes they were. In 19th century, the amount of work Faraday did, nobody can beat his record in science. So like that, in India, there are some examples like that. But I think that this is the way I would like to live. Well, Nobel Prize, where it is incidental, a lot of my friends have Nobel Prizes. Many of them are not very good actually, they are very ordinary. So you're lucky, you do accidental discovery. Well, they all would have done some very interesting thing, important thing, no doubt about it. So I can't say anything about it.
So talking about prime ministers, you've been the scientific advisor to several prime ministers in the past. You've been scientific advisor to at least 5 prime ministers in the past, starting with Indira Gandhi. How has it really changed from then to now, sir?
Well, you see, I've never been directly an advisor as a government servant, or an employee of the government. I've been chairman of the Science Advisory Council to the cabinet or the prime minister, for example, Rajiv Gandhi. It was wonderful. We could advise him in all kinds of things. The thing is, this position is a wonderful thing to have, where your advice is free. You are not looking for money. You are not looking for favors. You are not administrator. You are not competing with secretaries in government. But come with good ideas. Somehow see that some of them are executed. That I've been very lucky in that during Rajiv Gandhi's time. It was very nice. And also I worked with a little bit with Ms. Chandrasekhar. I think. Of course, with Manmohan Singh for 2 terms and so on. With Gujarat, even though it was a very short time, we did 1 or 2 very nice things in the short time. So it has been wonderful. Well, it is wonderful to be in that capacity. I don't want to work full time for government sitting in Delhi. I want to be in the lab.
And talking about science, sir, do you believe that we as a nation on the whole have understood the role of science really, or do you think that we've not understood the importance of science here?
Well, you see, we are not given the importance due to science. Science, well, the real science is carried in the little laboratories by chemists, scientists, physicists, biologists, all kinds of. Science sometimes is misunderstood as some big science, like atomic energy, space, like the other day, rocket. There's nothing to do with science. That technology thing that can go on. The real science, to improve your health, to improve your other kinds of things, improve your quality of life, that requires a different type of science in advanced materials, biology. That is the kind of science I do. That costs less money, but it is the essential ingredient of modern progress, of modern society.
You brought up rocket in space, sir. So because of the recent incidents, I have to ask you at least one question on that. ISRO's Mangalyaan, do you think it's going to have an impact on science, or is it going to have an impact on technology?
No. This is nothing to do with science. The success is a great success for Indian determination, perseverance, and India's position in the world in technology and so on. Science is not the main ingredient of these projects. For example, we build many atomic reactors. It is mainly technology, building and so on. Very, very good. We have to do that. That is a different kind of accomplishment. Not to be misunderstood to the kind of research I do, publishing papers in the most leading journals. That and this are not the same. So these are 2 different aspects of science and technology. We require both. Big science using rockets and reactors and so on, where we show in the world, my God, we are not ordinary little India's poor people, India with just poor people, but India with also people who can build, who can accomplish. We have wonderful engineers, that is the proof. Another is we also have extraordinary intellectuals who think of new things, create new things, who can innovate, discover things that will take science forward. We also have those people. We need both these.
And sir, before I let you go, you've just got 2 more minutes to wind up the program. I want to know, what is it that Dr. Science is working on right now? What is it that is keeping Dr. Science busy?
Well, I tell you, I've been working on advanced materials, particularly graphene and nanotubes became very famous. I have been working on that very, very seriously. Well, 3 years ago, I'll tell you what happened since then. 3 years ago, I decided, my God, graphene is a 1 atom thick layer of sheet of carbon atoms. Why only carbon? Why not I do the same thing with other inorganics? So I started doing that. Suddenly, last year or so, that entire subject has caught fire. Everyone in the world is working on it. People say, my God, how did you start that? And just now I was asked by a major journal to write a Frontiers article on that because I was one of the persons who started this. I'm doing that. That kind of thing. Another is, I've been always interested in looking at photosynthesis. How do plants? That every leaf you see is doing this fantastic chemical reaction, taking sunlight and then decompose water into hydrogen and oxygen. Every leaf does that. Can I do that in the lab and produce hydrogen for energy? So I am doing that in a big way now. I've been able to produce hydrogen in large quantities by artificial structures using semiconductors and other means, and that is another area I'm working on. A number of the things, creating new materials, devising new technologies for that, and also having materials with unusual properties and phenomena which are very useful.
And before I let you go, sir, a word of advice to young budding scientists across the world. What is that one message that you want to convey to them?
Well, India may be in some respects still a poor country. But one thing I tell you, even in this country, anyone who wants to succeed can succeed. Second, the qualities required to succeed are hard work, perseverance, and doggedness. And somebody said, what about intelligence? A little bit of that maybe.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao, for joining us on the program and sharing your valuable inputs with us. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching. We'll join you with much more on the other side. Goodbye.